All right. Call the meeting to order. We do the roll call.
Janine McCart, not here. Marty Mayo? Yes. Lisa Pappas? Yes. Tim Redmond? Absent. John Reiser?
Present.
Bill Weber?
Present.
And Weisman's present.
Okay, thank you. Didn't have an opportunity to see the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any changes or corrections?
Agenda, should we approve the agenda?
Maybe we should do it first. All right. Well, how about the agenda? Let's go to the agenda first. Any suggested changes? No. Not hearing none, can we approve the agenda?
I'll second that.
Okay, approved and seconded. You do it by acclamation. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, agenda's approved. Now the minutes. The comments, notifications, Marty, not even me? All right, then we have a motion to approve. Second, a second.
No.
Aye. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, good. All right, I welcome with the new members and our visitor, the Cohen's, Stephanie, husband's coming back in. Is he? All right. And I just want to say, really appreciate what everyone is contributing. It's a new year. I hope we can begin this new year with the same enthusiasm that we showed last year. We're fortunate because we've got really good people. I'm sorry Janine's not here, but we have John, who's our DOT rep. John, would you just say a little bit about yourself for those who may not have really met you in detail?
Hello, folks. My name is John Reiser. I live in Scio Township in the Ravine subdivision and was appointed in late October to fill a vacancy on the Board of Trustees. I work now for the city of Ann Arbor as an assistant city attorney doing municipal law generally, some other things as well. Before that, I worked for the Washtenaw County and Oakland County since the mid-90s as an assistant prosecuting attorney there most of the year. I'm also on the planning commission. I don't really tell you other stuff. But that's all you need to know right now.
Welcome, John, and thank you for your many dimensions of service to this country. All right. The other thing that we want to do is affirm who our officers are.
Do we need to? Oh, okay. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So, suggestion is that I will continue to be the chair. We needed a vice chair. Previously had been hot. Marty has agreed. She's the other senior person on the council as the vice chair. And Liz, fortunate that all of us, is going to continue being the secretary. She's doing a great job. So, can we have an affirmation of that? First of all, I guess I'll make the motion in a second.
Well, might as well.
Okay, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, I think we'll be happy with the officers. I hope so. Next item is public comments, and we do have some people present online. I don't see your images anywhere, but I think it's Rob and Jonathan Greenberg and anybody else?
And Joel Patton. Well, independent.
Okay. Do any of you have comments you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, this is Jonathan Greenberg. I don't mind letting Rob go first if he was, he definitely raised his hand sooner than I did. But I can make my point. I wanted to speak on behalf of the Cohen from three different perspectives. First of all, they're wonderful neighbors. I've been enjoying getting to know them over the last year or so. More importantly, they are leaders in the community. They have taken a leadership role in the new Trailwood subdivision, and quite admirable actions on his part in order to look out for the residents of Trailwood. And finally, they are looking to, and I don't want to take the steam out of their request, but what they're asking to do is on a piece of land that I used to farm. I used to farm it back in the 90s. We were a certified organic grower, and we provided produce to Zingerman's and Whole Foods and People's Food Co-op at the time. And so I know the history of the land. I've worked it and couldn't think of a better use for it in our new configuration as a neighborhood here on Park and Staple. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a question, is it still organic certified to this point?
No, for many reasons. First of all, it was certified by a state-run organization back when the state still had authority. That's no longer the case. In order to get anything organically certified these days, you have to fly someone in from Ohio, pay a lot of money, and if you're not a large producer, the organic label is just too expensive. The federal organic label is too expensive. I do know, though, that there has been some no-till growth on there by another local farmer over the last probably 12 years, so it is no longer organic. Yeah, that's all I know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the comment. Again, I don't see people who want to comment or your images, but are there other people who would like to comment? Rob?
Just one other person, Rob Pattinson. First of all, thank you, Barry Lonick, for being willing to run the Zoom. We really appreciate that. And so far, so good. Well done, buddy. Sorry. And then the Joe Pattinson thing is so that Mom can have the headphones, and that helps her hear better. So that just makes it clear. So we're happy to be with you guys, and have a good meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else? No. To comment? All right. Well, thank you both for your comments. We appreciate it. So next item is reports from the other commissions to sort of keep us in touch. And Mr. Reiser, looks like you're up first. Comments on the planning.
We had a meeting on Monday night, and we reviewed a revision to the PUD ordinance, and what we want to do, how do we incentivize development where we have sewer and water, rather than having big things go out where we don't have sewer and water, and the use of credits, density credits to allow more development. And there'll be a public hearing. It's coming back to the planning commission, and then it'll also go up to the board of trustees. So that's revising the PUD is something that we're working on. It's work in progress. Another thing that occurred was the rezoning of a 5-acre parcel in a R1 or 1-acre lots from A1 to R1 in an area that our future planning maps designate as low density residential. Neighbors were there in support of it, and parcel to the west is currently designated as R1. To the north is agriculture, but they were in favor of it. To the east is also residential, low density residential.
Where in the township are you thinking about?
I'm trying to think of the damn road. And it's
It was on West Delhi.
West Delhi. Yep, West Delhi.
Between Pratt.
Yep, West Delhi and Pratt is the general.
Well, it's off of West Delhi, but Pratt. No, it's on that side.
And by going from it's a 5-acre parcel. By going from a 5-acre parcel of agriculture to an R1, it allows for a theoretical max of 5 1-acre parcels. However, there's a wetlands there that they have no intention of messing with. It's going to really limit it to maybe a second or a third house. So it's still going to remain mostly dense. And then he's talking with his neighbor to the north, and they also have a 5-acre parcel, about seeing if they can kind of do something to share a private road so that they disturb less trees. safety.
Okay.
And another thing they talked about is kind of like future planning. What do we want to do by way of sustainability? What do we want to do as far as energy requirements? What do we want to do with solar requirements? Jan Culbertson just kind of broached these topics of things that might be coming down the pike for us to be thinking about. There weren't any action items taken. There weren't any presentations given. Just kind of sharing of things that are on the list. And that's all I had.
Next, Parks and Recreation, and I guess have they come together? They're going to come together? What's going on there?
Yeah, I know something about that. Both of those groups ceased to exist on December the 8th. On the website, there is a new group called Parks, Preserves, and Outlays. It has 3 members from TAP and 3 members from Parks Group. And there are 3 open spots on that new committee that are to be filled with either community members or representatives from various, like LPC and planning, I guess, and the board. So there are 3 open spots on that committee. So,
Are you retaining your position?
well, I think I would have to be reappointed. It's a whole new group. So I think we can decide. I'm not sure. I wasn't clear. I just looked back this off the website, but I wasn't clear on whether the group wants actual unaffiliated members of the community to sit on that group or representatives from other township commissions. So I don't know the answer.
Well, consistent with the theory that these commissions should be cross-represented, our preference to have someone on it. Since we're so closely aligned with each other's activities.
Yeah, I'm willing to do it if that's
You think we need to advocate?
Yeah, I don't really know because I just really looked at the website and figured all this out. I don't even know I don't know that there was a chair on there. Maybe there is a chair.
And the appointees would be through Will pathway?
I'm at I'm sure.
Okay.
But it is set up. It's on the website. And the other 2 commissioners are, it says on the website that it seems to exist on Sunday.
It's so strange. So it ceased to exist. So you don't serve on TAP anymore because TAP has gone away.
Well, right, exactly. Right. And there are 3 people taken off of each of those groups, like permanent members that are members of the group. So I'm happy to do it, but I would like to make sure that that's the intention of for these last 3 openings.
Okay. All right. Maybe I should make it my matter to contact Will and suggest that we can, unless somebody else is really eager to serve on that committee.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So under my report, I'm going to talk about the board actions on Tuesday night, if you folks want to hear an update. And one of the things that happened, a couple things, is that the township administrator position is now going to be referred to as the township manager. We used to have township managers and Bryce Kelly and Spalding Clark and even before that. And the statute talks about a township manager. The Scio Township ordinance talks about a township manager. Henceforth, we envision that the chief administrative officer of the township is going to be the township manager. So that happened. We also repealed the job description for the township supervisor. One of the things that job description had was the nomination of people, or people to various boards. And some of those are pursuant to state law, some of them pursuant to policy or ordinance. So if you want to nominate someone, or if you want to recommend somebody, you might make a motion that the board of trustees reappoint somebody. So I think it's going to go to the board. Anyone can kind of probably apply, but to the extent that this body wants to recommend somebody who knows about this work and what we do, then it might behoove this board to do that. Because the supervisor used to have statutory duties and still does, but non-statutory duties as well, which included the nomination of people to boards and commissions, committees, things like that. So you won't be able to say, well, just appoint him or her, because it's going to be, the board can make appointments, people can make appointments. So if you want to get something before the board of trustees, that person will have to apply likely, or maybe not apply, but the board will have to make the appointment. So
I'll make a motion to nominate Liz Devine. And anybody who was on tap before, I mean, it just makes sense if they were doing a good job.
And I'm not saying, I'm just saying you might want to do it to formally support that person.
I think we should do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. All right, so we have motion and support, all in favor of this Weisman being our
Will we
recommendation?
nominate her to be on the position?
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll, let the board know, Liz, you're the prime candidate.
Okay, I accept.
Good, thank you, for helping us. So, we're up to the board of trustees. Are there other things that we should know about?
To enable the hiring of an on-site IT person, we contract that out. And are we big enough? So that if we had an IT person, we could have started the meeting at 4:02 instead of 4:12 or whatever it was. No, we're not, so that's something that has been enabled or authorized.
It has
That's
been,
good news.
Somebody's been hired,
We haven't hired yet, but just,
and they'll be here to help us with our meeting.
yes.
No, it was, in the past.
So an IT person, so should we take IT inside? That was approved. Now, we still gotta find somebody, recruit somebody, hire somebody, transition, that kind of thing. But that was on the agenda.
I'm just curious, was, in the past, when they tried to hire someone for IT, there was objection to the amount of money being paid, and she had to wander off somewhat disgruntled. Is there a recommended salary or hourly rate, or however you're planning to do this?
The answer is yes. And expected salary, 70 to 80,000 per year, plus bennies, up to 100,000, so kind of up to 100,000. We currently contract for services about 66,000. So, is that up to call someone? I guess we'll find out.
Well,
So 70 to 80, the expected salary. Pardon?
that's good salary.
We'll find out.
I don't think that's the salary, is that?
Yeah. So with plus with benefits. So that's what that was. Another board.
Has it been posted?
Offer,
The answer is no, it hasn't been posted. It was, I shouldn't say that it hasn't been posted because I don't know. It was to authorize the creation of an IT manager position with an annual salary of up to $80,000 to be budgeted from a certain budget fund. So no, it's just been kind of authorized and enabled, the groundwork set.
what is the status of hiring and hiring manager?
Well, we have an interim township manager, and I just pulled Jim Murphy away from a meeting, one of their final meetings together, where Jim's kind of transitioning the position and information.
So Jim is the intermediate one, right?
No, Jim is what? The word I'm thinking about, emeritus. Yes. So Jim, it's now Mark Thompson. Mark started the last week, I want to say, in December or the first week of the year. So Mark's been here maybe a couple of weeks. Mark's been here every day. Jim's been either on vacation or away or ill for a little bit. So Jim hasn't been here much. He's just so they're in the final days of the transition, the succession planning from one interim, Jim Murphy, to Mark Thompson. So Mark's in charge.
And it's called the position of township manager.
yes, but it's interim, on an interim basis, up to 6 months. Interim, yeah, so it's interim, yeah. And Mark, by way of information, Mark was the city manager, village manager for Ottawa Hills, which is kind of an upscale suburb in Toledo area. So he retired from Ottawa Hills in government administration down there, but then he went to the city of Fraser and helped them out as an interim basis as a city manager in Fraser, and they had some chaos on their board. So he served in Fraser and Richmond for a while, and then he also worked in the city of Ann Arbor when they had some turnover, nice way of saying it, in their HR department. So Mark Thompson served as an interim human resources director for the city of Ann Arbor, where I met him. I thought he did a great job, good guy, gets along with people, very
Special people skills.
good demeanor. And also HR, which is good for the township, but the HR is kind of have something that board wants, more.
Has he given a commitment of duration?
6 months. 6 months. If he need it a little longer or that, but the thing is really for him to kind of help us stabilize the ship, get a little more smooth, help get things running more smoothly, and then so that a permanent township manager will be an easier position for us to do a little trick. And the last thing that I'll point out on the board is that we also made a policy decision to try to hire a finance director who should, at this point, report to and be supervised by the township manager. I'll leave it at that. There are differences of opinions on the board as to whom a finance director should report to, and you can read local lawsuits if you want to know the details of what the board weighed in and said. At least right now, it should report to the finance director should report to the township manager. Maybe that will change in the future, but at least right now.
And the finance director is it's authorized to hire that person?
Yeah.
Okay, authorized, but not, and so it'll be in the works, you're saying?
Yeah. I think we have it posted, and we have a recruiter. We're trying to get one.
You don't have a body.
We don't have a person yet. No, we do not have a person. We want to set the structure, the framework, and then try to recruit. And the other thing was that the return of Mary Gillis as editor for the township newsletter beginning in the spring of 2023 going forward. So there was strong support to return Mary as the editor of the township's newsletter.
So that will be when we expect the next publication. Now, there was a suggestion that one would be coming out shortly on the part of Will, and he solicited contributions, which we provided.
Why did she go away?
Well, there are differing of opinions. That's a really loaded question. and that takes us far afield from land preservation.
There you go.
But to answer your question, Will, there is a Scio Township newsletter that is winter 2023 that's on the front counter. So they're out. They're going to be distributed shortly.
Are we mentioned in?
I haven't read it. I just picked it up.
Yeah.
I try not to discuss too much of hornet's nest to answer your question.
All right.
She resigned, but her talents were recognized, and she offered to come back. And there was a resolution by Trustee Carey to bring her back, and supported Jillian in that resolution, and she's coming back. That's all I'm going to say.
There's an article for you. It's about us. All right, thank you. Sustainability task force. Now, Leon, and Tim also is on sustainability task force?
They were there on the same part of that.
Okay.
So, and we are having a meeting tonight. By Zoom.
Here?
Zoom.
Zoom, oh.
So, I was kind of hijacked into this position. I took over a subgroup. There are 5 subgroups. I don't have them at my fingertips. But one of them is called land, waters, and agriculture. And our task is to come up with ideas for increasing the sustainability of the township. And I was blown away. There's just so much on this. There's so much and not enough. Janine is going to be doing the waters, and Tim and Margaret, we're going to be working on agriculture. And they have, so I don't know if I tell you about my part. I don't know what the other groups are doing. There's one that's working on waste, waste.
I'm sure energy is one.
Garbage and buildings is another one. How to improve buildings.
So you're meeting tonight. So,
And Jan wanted us all to have a nice little presentation. There was, in our case, not enough time to put together the information that I think we need to do. I'm very, I find these ideas, and we're focused on 3 things. First, we're not doing land inside of township. And I decided I could focus on tree canopy as an issue that is found in a number of different towns that are affected. All the towns are on all kinds of different but trying to find out how to make a tree canopy in the township is tricky. I think yesterday was your guy, Norm Rowe.
I see his big screens up through the window every night. I'm like, I know what he's working on.
Well, yeah, I called him up and suggested it a couple of weeks ago. I called him up this morning to see about anything about it. Oh, he says, yeah, I'm working on it. So, and then, so tree canopy is one thing. How to increase the tree canopy? First of all, trees are good for the air, and then they also provide shade. And so, and how, first of all, in order to say that we've improved it or increased it, we have to be able to measure it. So that was my first challenge. Yeah.
So Marty, the sustainability chapter is an ongoing project, right? You're meeting every month?
No, there's no regular system of meetings. Jan calls a Zoom meeting every once in a while.
this is Jan Public.
Jan calls it, yeah, so she wants us to kind of highlight. She's hoping to have some kind of report this year or next year, for the board, I think, for the township, to report on ideas on sustainability, I think, how to make buildings more sustainable. And then there's the garbage and waste, and there's land, whatever.
Okay.
So my second area is going to be imperviousness. And that's another tricky matter, but not to the
All right.
because you get stormwater on it, and there's dump in stormwater. And so what you want to do is reduce first.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Well, that's basically.
That's great.
Next item is per request of Christie, approval of future meeting dates and times. And I understand there may be actually some state regulation or at least suggestion that through the rest of the year, we publish our likely meeting dates and times on the website.
I think it's actually that the body has a motion saying these are going to be our regular meeting times.
Okay, so in our case, we've made an adjustment here. I think predictably we'll meet at 4 p.m. on the second Thursday of each month, with decisions possibly made along the way to change that. But does that make sense to all of you, that that be our regular time and date of meeting? And you think we actually need a motion to that effect?
And to specify what those dates are.
Specifically.
Correct.
So perhaps we could direct our secretary to compile the list of second Thursday dates that will be noted as what we should submit to Christie for assessment.
So we have to actually like vote on this? On the
Yeah, I
dates?
think yes, it's a pretty formal thing. It's kind of routine.
So I'll
We
make
need the dates
We
and
can't
times
just say,
for
okay.
the year.
that motion. We have a second.
But wait, do we need the dates in front of us to make the motion?
I think probably.
Yes.
Okay, so February 9,
What else?
March 9,
Okay,
April 13,
uh-huh,
May 11,
uh-huh,
June 8,
yeah,
July 13,
okay,
August 10, September 14, October 12, November 9, December 14.
Yes.
I would support that motion.
Okay. Try the affirmation here again. All in favor, say aye.
Who's our second? Will's our
Second.
Who's our second? Oh, John, okay, got it.
Whatever.
And then affirmation?
Well, the two of us are in on it, so whichever
I got it.
you put
No,
him
I
down
got
for, put me down for the other.
All
All in favor, say aye.
right,
More complicated than I thought. All right. Time.
so I will get back to you.
Can you do that?
Yes.
Thank you, Liz. As items of new business, first one is a discussion of the Cohen purchase request. I hope all of you received the document and the information that was provided by Cohen's. This is a unique proposition for us, so we've got a number of things we've got to think about as to how this works out. But I want to just give us a sense of overall what's the passion that's driving you to do this. And I think one of the clarifications is, do you definitely want to purchase, or would you also consider a lease? Purchase, okay.
And so, this land is actually located literally in our backyard, just across the creek and over a dirt road. And you can see on that second slide,
Great.
and that's right on the other side. And we just like to make this our actual backyard. And so our plans, what we would like to do, we'd like to start a small apiary as well as a regenerative farm. So going into the whole sustainability conversation, that was kind of burning inside of me because that's kind of what all of this is all about. If you guys approve us to buy the land, it would allow us to do our part in health and safety, our soil, our farms, our food, our earth. We have a pretty extensive plan that would take several years to accomplish, but starting out as an apiary that would get us started. But just opportunities, further opportunities for food security, livelihood, improving our ecosystem's health. There was at one point in the LPC meeting that you guys stated no farm, no foods. But we want to take it a bit further, stating that no bees, no farm, no foods. Because 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat is pollinated by a bee or some other form of pollinator. So the importance of these little creatures is pretty significant in the things they do. It's pretty imperative to our livelihood, our life, our food, our whole being.
of our people have some questions. I wasn't particular. What question did you
I
have?
guess one of my questions was, you said you wanted to close the property. And you mentioned also. So tell me, can you talk about that, how that would go? I think you said 6%.
So the fence would only be around the apiary, and that would just be more to protect the bees, the people, the animals, keeping everybody away from the apiary unless they were getting into. So the fence would only be around the apiary, not the entire land. No.
But, and so how much acreage are you anticipating? You have quite a bit, from 3 to 5.
We would progressively grow the number of hives we had. However, we would start off with 3 and then multiply on a annual basis, ideally. But the acreage, just based on what the map shows, we don't want anything to do with the floodplains, wetlands. All of that will stay. We just want to
Did you expect the public to be, is it going to be public access?
Eventually, I would love to have small groups of people come in, get educated, and have experiences. Just our son, for instance, he said the other day that his dream weekend would be to go to local cow. We don't know where he gets local cow, but this would give an opportunity, just even to our community, our immediate neighborhood, doesn't access to understand where their food is coming from, to understand how to be better stewards of the land, understand that bees and other pollinators are incredibly important to our environment. And if they understood what bees are about, they would have their environment, right? It's the box and others. But it would be more of an educational opportunity.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Tons, but oh wait, I can't. So, go ahead. So, is this something we own in fee simple absolute?
Yes.
And what did we pay for it?
So we bought 3 non-contiguous parcels owned by the same family.
Right.
And so
But now, we're not talking dollars and cents now, we wouldn't do it in an open meeting anyways, probably. But, so this is a concept discussion, am I right on that? So, would you propose that we divide it and sell you portions if you wouldn't want to buy portions, or how would that work? Are there some wetlands on this property?
No. So from conversations that we've had, the township is most interested in the woodlands and the creek that runs alongside of the property, which actually is a perfect fit because that's not the areas that we're most interested in. So there would be some sort of easement that would work in perpetuity forever that would keep that exactly the way it is because that's not what it's meant for. So when you talk about the exact acreage, I don't think we know what the exact acreage would look like, but we would purchase, if possible, the entire land and put that easement in place that would keep exactly what the township wants as is today moving
Will
forward.
the entire parcel be subject to an easement as to what limited future development?
Absolutely.
So will there be different types of easements on different portions of the property?
From my understanding, and this is where it gets a little bit outside of my knowledge and jurisdiction, I think Barrett would probably be able to answer that a little bit easier, would be whatever needs to take place legally so that the pieces of the property that need to stay the way they need, stay the way they are, and specific ability to build, whether it be a farmhouse or a greenhouse or any other structure would be limited to that, again, in perpetuity based on the easements that are put in place when the purchase happens. I think that's how it's buried. I don't know.
Yeah, Barry, you want to give us your take on the project?
So this parcel is about 23 and a half acres.
Okay.
In size. And when we had the appraisal done for all three of these parcels, because they were separate, contiguous, non-contiguous parcels, we had the appraiser evaluate each one of them individually. Okay. So, to answer your question, John, about what we paid the fair market, the appraised value for this parcel, which was $293,000. Round about 15 of the 23.5 acres is old field. It's been idle for several years.
How much again?
About 15 acres. Yeah, of the 23.5.
The price that you ordered was just for this.
Just for this parcel, the 23.5 acre parcel, correct. And the interest that we had in all of these parcels is that they have some nice woods, wetlands, creeks running through them. They're also adjacent to the funky, what I call the Stabler strip of land, which is 60 foot wide, and, a mile and a half or something. And so that provided an opportunity to not only conserve the natural features of these parcels, but also be able to link them all together and this proposal on the table. It's part of the approved PUD for what's called Woodland Commons on the south side of Jackson, which is sort of east of where Baker Road runs into Jackson, which is now in the process of being built further. The southern part of it we advocated for retaining as woods because it's legal imperative that we have to preserve property. So there's the part of the PUD agreement for that property is to run a trail through it and we should be able to link up all of these other parcels. That was our motivation to buy these properties a couple of years ago. So there's about 15 of these acres that have been idle for several years. And that's what the Coens are interested in to see if they can acquire from us. I would say that if we were going to pursue this, that we would retain ownership of the northern part, the 8 acres or so, the street running through it, as wood. And the southern 15 or so acres could be conveyed to them subject to a conservation easement so that they would be able to engage in agricultural activities on it, but limit the development both in terms of agricultural buildings. And we kicked this around a little bit. It just hasn't percolated up to the top of the list of things to address. But we have all three of these parcels here and a couple of other properties that we have bought outright that have some agricultural elements that continue to be idle properties. But we want to retain these fields on these properties, or we want to conserve them and make them available to somebody like Cohen's who wants to do some kind of innovative agricultural enterprise.
And then what do we do? Get a right of first refusal? They want to resell it, or how does that work?
We certainly could do that, but if there's an easement, conservation easement on the property that limits the use, then it may not be necessary. They say after 10 years or whatever that we're done with this. We're going to sell it to somebody else. It will still be subject to conservation.
And I think also you mentioned the north side, but you also have the creek running. You would want to retain that piece on the east side.
Correct.
The other thing that we talked about is how we ran into trouble once before when we accepted a singular bid and we couldn't get, we raised some hackles in not making an open bidding process for a piece of land that was agricultural. So we're a little wary about just saying, well, okay, you've got a good plan, we like it, we'll do the deal. We can have to probably open this opportunity to purchase the land up.
Well, and we have a procedure.
We do.
For doing that.
We do, and in that procedure, as it's worked in the past, we have an open bidding process. We're listed in a database as available.
the bids come in with suggestions of what people are going to do, and then we choose the one that seems to be most compatible with what we decided is, the aspirations that we want to support in our township. And this would be a very strong proposal, I'm sure, but again, it's a matter of entertaining a fairly, time-consuming process in order to set this all up. So, I don't know, Barry, and what we've also talked about to the candidates, this is what we should be thinking about, is this kind of an opportunity. So, yeah, it's a great proposal. In the one case that we have implemented the RFP process, it's not a property that we own, it's the Reddings Farm. We were buying conservation easement, and we beginning to find a buyer, a piece of interest for that easement. Add down the Excel evaluation criteria, which should absolutely be applied in this case as well. Are you familiar with the Rand's purchase? Yeah. We were quite pleased with how that worked out, but it is a different way of coming to transfer ownership. And we're, in full transparency as well, we're all about need to put out a public RFP. Feel free to do so. What we're hoping for in the coming day is that process can be expedited so we can move. I mean, if you have those RFP pieces in place, which you obviously do, it's pretty straightforward when we talk about releasing it out, is we're just hoping this is a weeks, months process, not years and years, because we want to enact on this vision, right? And I think that's LPC coming spring. Yes.
So I'm intrigued by the concept, supportive of the concept. How do we effectuate it? How do we effectuate it fairly with the use of public dollars to buy things for public land? And will the public be able to walk on the property, or will there be paths on the property, or will it be hands off because it's too dangerous to come here because there are bees that could sting you? I don't mean that. But yeah, and so how do we still allow the public to enjoy the property as much as we can, or if they need to? We got trail woods right across the street. Sure, it would be nice to walk in the woods or whatever over there, or I don't know. Can that happen now, or is it no trespass? I don't know.
You could walk through there, but good luck with the barbed wire that's all over that needs to be taken care of. If you take a look,
Right, so I saw the.
So you can find it. Yeah, so we found the barbed wire the hard way during the beginning of COVID. We walked our kids through there to have something to hike on.
Something like a 99-year lease work kind of thing. Or I mean, what's the best way to accommodate township's need for land preservation, public access, and this very good, laudable, commendable thing about apiary? So I know, you know Kurt Jones? He's a bee guy from up north, has a quiet meadery. He also sells queens. So I know people in this industry, and I really support it. So it's like the devil's in the details. How do we get it done? Kind of.
Agreed. I think that when you start getting into ownership versus leasing versus, okay, who's responsible for certain areas of maintenance and other pieces where, I think that in discussions with, folks about owning versus leasing, and, what about, what if you need water? Is there water there that could, help with any type of other greenhousing that you might grow, and whatever the case might be? That
if we want to take a path, so you're familiar with the, you call it the Stabler strip, or the strip that you have this, yes.
That's the property.
That's the Scio trailhead.
It's between trail
Northern
and
border of
property.
the parcel, there's this little strip that goes all the way over. There would be a perfect pathway someday. And what if the pathway should go across that strip and then maybe come down along the creek kind of thing? I mean, so I think one of my interests would be preserving the public's right to recreate there, that while allowing simultaneous bee operations of public recreation to the extent possible.
So is the recreating based on plans that exist today? Or,
No.
because there's no recreating there.
I know it, but we've got, Barry, you want to explain what I'm talking about?
There was some consideration of using the strip to cross this branch of the creek. But that's a pretty wide, it's bigger than you could jump across.
Yeah, so, yeah, come on.
Yeah,
That's nowhere, we're talking here. That's nowhere,
correct. But Anna Cohen is our parks director. She asked me one time about applying for some grant or something like that, about the being able to cross over on the strip over this stream. And it's, there's a pretty major floodplain there, and a large branch of Pine Creek flowing through there. Sometimes you'd have to build a bridge across that. And that's an expensive proposition, $1 million bridge just for a footbridge. And so one of my suggestions was, instead of crossing there, to run down along the creek to get you to the State Bar Park.
are you there then?
Yeah.
And again, I think that all of those things are
Negotiable.
It's not even negotiable. I think they're nice. They're nice to have. I mean, one of the things living in the neighborhood we live in, there's no parking there. It's just crazy. So I think that those are all great things for the community to be involved with. I mean, you're just not going to want a path that goes directly through the middle of that. Yeah,
Right, I know, I did that. I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that's all through that wooded area, which again, I think the township wanted to conserve as best as possible.
Let me explore two other things. Let's suppose it's 15 acres that someone's willing to go and purchase. And of course, with the easement, it's not going to amount to the cost that we paid for it. What would be the cost, just as an estimate based on what we paid for agricultural land in other projects? What is the likely selling price at today's rates? And again, this is not an estimate, but I just want to be sure you're in the ballpark with what would be the likely cost.
So what we're seeing in appraisals these days is that the value of land after easement has been placed on it is $3,500 a year. You can't develop it for houses, you can only use it for agriculture or open space purposes. So
3,500 an acre, okay.
times 15, right, is 52,000.
Is that in the realm of what you had expected?
That's based on, conversations and research we did this.
So that's not an obstacle. Okay. The other concern that we've had as we briefly discussed this is, as you learned as you've been sitting there are other commissions within the township that have responsibilities for picking up the land after you purchase it and doing something with it. So we don't want to get crossways with what is it you call it now? The parks
Parks,
trails?
reserves, and pathways. I think.
PPP.
PPP.
Yeah.
Parks, reserves.
So, I mean, if we would certainly have to get their acknowledgement and decide who it is that's really in charge of this kind of project, I suppose. So what would be a next step to evaluate this, Barry, in your mind?
I might suggest to reconvene our little committee
And decide whether to put out an RFP.
My only concern is that we could do it quick enough and to accommodate, should you be the winner of the RFP,
Yeah, next summer,
but she's got bees coming in the spring.
if you don't mind. We're not interested in a long-term lease. But I think if we could arrange something quickly, a short-term lease while all this is figured out, hives are movable, especially, so if we could work something out within the next couple months for at least a year lease while things are worked out, and it would make so the committee and others in the township don't have to rush. And you could put out an RFP, and if someone else has a better proposal, by all means, take that proposal.
Let the 15 acres out of it.
Perhaps eventually, but lease, short-term lease arrangement, I don't think that's necessarily,
Yeah.
we just can identify within there.
So in a purchase, we would be able to engineer or survey a 15-acre chunk of that property and sell that piece of, or
lease it out.
take the easement.
Or lease it out for short-term.
I don't think we would sell it fee simple.
No, we want the easement in place, right?
We're not gonna use all these land by fee, but we're not gonna buy, I wouldn't think we would buy all this rural agricultural land and then sell it fee simple. We would be subject to easements, right?
Right.
So on, one of the things that came up Tuesday at the Board of Trustees was the PROs, the, yeah, recreational. People talking about we're buying land and, people can't use it, and what about dog parks, and what about basketball courts, and this is a great juicy corner spot next to a lot of density that can be used for other things. So that could be a tension, like, gee, this is a great idea, but maybe it's not here. I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be here, by the way, but so maybe the township also wants to preserve some in the front to put some other, I don't know, a dog park, or I'm not saying, I'm just picking that out of the air, but that came up, or a basketball court, or a trailhead, or a parking lot, or something supported, recommended that flows through that PROS plan. So I'm not saying they do, by the way, but I'm just saying if that came up on Tuesday night, is that using acquired land for people, like the broader term I'll say is recreate, whatever that means. Croquet would be to some people, I don't know.
And that really does fall to the PPP commission.
Yeah.
And it also falls to, we should say yes to developers who do put in parks and some open space. Trailwoods didn't do any of that, and it's too bad.
And then there's also, I don't believe it's all or nothing where we need 15 acres.
No, I'm not against it at all.
No, I know you're not. I know, trust me, I know.
I'm trying to juggle balls here and force.
No, I think that the beauty of what we're trying to do is on behalf of the community, with some of those trails, if you look at some of the pictures and ideas, obviously none of those are set in stone, but it's opening that up for the neighbors, for the community, for the township to utilize, where quite candidly, I don't think taxpayers want to pay a ton of money for it. We're willing to do it on our dime. So if we're beautifying, building something good for the community, for the environment, then by all means, if the township wants to pay for stuff like that, then great. But that $1 million bridge didn't fly, and who knows how long it will take to build any type of program.
Like, could there be a playground at the front? Something like that.
Again,
A play structure, right?
It's not ours.
No, but I'm just saying, is that a potential possibility?
It is right now, for sure. Yeah, we own the property, there's no restrictions on it, it can be used for any number of purposes.
And obviously, you folks wouldn't be opposed to a playground where kids could get stung. On a serious note, you put flowers there, or do you plant things, wildflowers, or do the bees go out and get it from wherever they get it?
You travel 4 miles.
Pardon?
You travel about 4 miles. So,
But also, yes, we plant wildflowers.
Okay. All right, we've taken a little more time than I imagined, but I'm very appreciative that you came and presented a very coaching proposal here. I think what we need to do is want to check with the PPP people just to be sure they're aware that this is even, and your committee needs to get together and decide what steps would be necessary to make an RFP for this. And I guess we need to consider, we bought 15 acres, but then you also intimated that maybe less than 15 acres would be adequate for your needs.
As long as the understanding isn't that there's a massive parking lot footprint, you know, what I mean, it would not be,
Of course.
you know,
Everybody wants to have
the studies of what the land that we're trying to use it for, right? That if there needed to be in the back there where you say, you know what, you don't want $1 million bridge, but you need to cut across a larger piece of that property for a trail, great, wonderful, by all means. But if it means like you're putting something that just doesn't
I don't think, looking at it, I don't think that's just the northeast portion. It's, right. You don't want the northern part, you don't want the northern wooded part, and you're flexible on the eastern edge where the creek is.
Absolutely, yep, that was the understanding.
Stephanie and Aaron, is this a win-win in terms of you've got a dense population of people putting in their nice lawns and flowers, and they might be the type of folks that are using neonicotinoids that are not going to be conducive to your bees. I've seen it happen where you've got beautiful bees, they fly over to people that are using neonicotinoids and they get paralyzed and they die. So how would you marry those two?
So based on his position with the community, but also just based off our relationships within the community, I think that's our part to educate them on how that would affect our business and why, you know, we're asking them not, and obviously they can, but not do that. Or if we educate people in the right way, I think we would have understanding that that's what's helping them.
The lucky one with that job.
I mean, when I see them, you know, it's a big issue. I mean, it's just, we could be bringing bees into the neighborhood to only die based on this new development. And I see,
But it's a good idea. It's education, we're talking about education.
Yeah.
Talking about.
And have you looked at this prospect of the nature of the location might be perilous for bees? Has that been part of your consideration in deciding to put an apiary?
Not necessarily, just based off of Jonathan's past experience and having bees at this particular location and the you know, what we've experienced in the past several years of living there. I think that's.
You don't see that's an issue.
It's good as an
All right, committee, you know, okay, all right. Good. So we'll keep you informed, all right? And it's been a pleasure learning about your project, and we'll see what we can do.
and I would think of Plan B in terms of, you know, timing, because spring is going to be here before, you know, with your bees. And, you know, we're a volunteer group. We've got another piece of land we're going to do an RFP on before this one. And, you know, I know in your mind 2 months is the longest period, but for us it might be, that's a quick turnaround this time.
Which is, I was curious, again, if it's sitting idle, is there a quick solution to, you know, a year lease that allows us, and I don't know how formal that needs to be, where if that's literally what it is, you know, and I don't know what, you know, the township could do about something like that in this committee, where you just go, look, it's good for the environment, it's not doing anything outside of, you know, 3 hives to let, and it would also be a really good test to see whether or not it is a great place or not, candidly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
How do you put something like that in place before, you know, 2, 3, 4 months? And is there something that we could do on our side to make that go quicker, I guess?
If we put out our, you know, we need to treat all that.
Of course.
Similarly, so if one person's already leasing the property, and already has an established enterprise, that's, you know, a little challenging.
But it might be interesting, you know, we've got other, you know, like maybe Vestergaard would be interested in offering us some space.
Right, except this is in their backyard, that's why it's
So,
interesting.
apiaries are very mobile, right? You could pack it up and move it 2 miles or 3 miles on relatively short notice, is that right? Or do you disrupt the honeying season by moving it? Yeah.
So
That-
I
that's
think this is an
very-
interesting idea. There may be other sympathetic people around who would allow you to get started with the project.
And don't think that we didn't go into this thinking, hey, we're getting this up. We do have a backup. It's just not anywhere near convenience at my mom's house. So it's across town and a little bit less of less ease there. Not as much space.
Okay, I think we know what you have in mind.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me.
I think you should admit that we're enthusiastic about the possibility
Yeah.
of that or what constraints we have.
Yeah, one, I guess, last question would be, obviously we have email addresses and all that kind of stuff. What would be the appropriate length of time for following up to figure out where things stand and whether or not you can start considering putting it into that RFP process? I guess that would really be the next step, is a yay or nay on putting it into RFP, isn't that?
Well, I certainly know when that's ready to go,
Of course.
and you have my contact information. You can certainly inquire anytime if you'd like. You know, it's been a while and you haven't heard, but I think the committee is likely to meet within the next month. And at the next meeting, we'll be on the agenda again to see what progress is. That's the way we do it.
Wonderful.
And I'll let you know in advance if it's worth your coming in. And of course, you can visit by Zoom if you want. It might be easier for you.
We saw how that worked.
Maybe you can come and be in charge of the Zoom.
$80,000 isn't enough today.
That's good.
And your son can milk the cow at my at Vestergaard's farm.
He would love to do that. He would love to. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
All right, bye-bye. All these are the Oh.
Okay. All right. Well, that was kind of a pleasant description. That's a little different activity. Marty, you had a thought about having on a regular basis ecological maps available to us at the meetings. Is that the idea that you were
That's the
thinking
idea.
about?
I've been frustrated, when raiding property that we're looking at, and I've seen the property and visited it, and I see what it's like, but I'm thinking, I have suffered by not knowing how it fits into the context of the whole country. And so part of my sustainability work, I encountered these on the maps. Now, you could ask, where have you been? We've been out. And I thought, well, when we consider the property, we should have available some of these maps that show, where the water resources are, where the bioreserves are, where the water recharge areas are, where are the trees, and so I was looking at this and this map that has been put out.
That's in here.
Yes. I'm going to give you.
Well, is this adequate to have this in front of us?
I would think so.
I agree. It's so helpful to have a map, and it's also really helpful when Barry puts the address in because you can pull it up with, Google Maps and.
Yeah, and I haven't because of
Yeah.
So I guess I just want to understand. You mentioned tree cover and things like that. And as a regular basis at our meetings, if we just have this in front of us, are we doing the job, or are you thinking Barry should have something a little more sophisticated and more zoomed in on the properties? What is your sense of a
my
better
sense is this
circumstance?
would be just immensely useful to me. Even, okay, what we have here is land uses. And the map just shows all the various things that are on what land uses we have. And I'm thinking, well, oh my gosh, we've got this resource. Why don't we use it?
So maybe we haven't, and it's a matter of just bringing this with us. Is
I
that
would
fair to
say.
say?
Yeah, I'll make sure that you do that.
Yeah. I know, sometimes I even want a bigger one and have it maybe laminated or something yeah. Oh, we all just go up to that photo over there.
If we find that having a map is useful, we could ask, Walker to make us a map about like this. And I think
I would love that, to be able to fold out and study.
We could have it on the wall and just leave it here, right? And then if we needed to, go over to it, I suppose. Or another idea is to put it up on the screen, but I mean, it's not that easy to see the screens from where we sit here. I don't know if that's a better idea. I'm looking for the best way to make use of a map, you know what I mean? That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I thought when I had the problem is we were rating the property that we looked at. And I think to give it an honest rating, I would like to know, okay, are there any trees around it? And do we have any treescapes or streams? Or is there a bioreserve here? If there's a bioreserve, we ought to pay attention to it and find out more about that. And what the maps do is just tell us these things are there.
So I have a ton of maps that I 8.5 by 11 in my board book, and they're like, it's the sewer district, it's the precinct map, it's the zoning map, it's the preserved property map, it's the parklands map. There's all kinds of maps that are out there. Of course, one of the better maps is the GIS system for the county that you can turn on different layers with boundaries and parcels, and you can see the streets or not the street names. You can see the photos. You can see the photos from 2020 or 2017 or 2015 and going back, so you can see it over time. So I don't know, maybe we have someone at the township just put a list of all the maps that we have on there so you can just zoom in and pinch them out. Maybe because they're out there, which property is not subject to annexation and which is in the township of the city. So there's dozens of maps out there. Do we need a special one, or do we just need them somewhere that you can look at the one you want?
Pardon me, but being of the older generation, I'm not so good at zooming in on what the county has.
Okay.
And not only that, but this thing has not been so cooperative as I would like to have.
Okay.
Okay?
So just a nice
However,
point out
I
that we
found
can
it
hold up.
extremely useful that as I started looking over, I noticed, for instance, that the map for 2013 doesn't quite match the map from 2021 on land uses.
So you want like a zoning map or preserved property or parklands or like What do you
I'm
want?
interested in the natural features. Because I'm working on the sustainability, so I'm interested, okay, where are the trees? And where are the bioreserves areas? And have we really paid attention to the bioreserves areas? What are they, first of all? And, that's mainly what I'm looking at. Here we have, I like to know where the residential are, et cetera, but for me more is the natural features of the territory where we are preserving plains.
So with like a 2 by 2 or 2 by 3 foot, or I guess where it's square, would a 3 foot by 3 foot overhead photo be sufficient with the various layers on it, whether it's zoning for residential or with just the photo itself? Or, I mean, I'd be willing to kind of work with you.
I say, this is what you need.
Just bigger and
Just
print it out.
No, I mean, even this, I found it very useful.
Oh, well, do we have it then? I mean, do we have it?
Yeah, if you don't need it.
Yeah, we have what we need, that's all.
Okay.
But if it doesn't help.
No, I'm curious about the GIS system. Now, is that something we can access ourselves, Larry? Oh, okay.
That's where these are from.
Yeah, I find it very frustrating to try to get it down.
So, Bernie, could you send us the link so we can play around with it? I've never really gotten it.
Yeah,
He always produces a nice color map for us for an individual property.
right. It's from the county's GIS.
Okay. And we'll send you the link and a short tutorial. Good.
But there are layers on there of wetlands, and there are layers on there of drains. And I don't know if you do contour lines too, but
Yeah, absolutely.
yes, so you can get it.
And water,
Yeah,
water features and
yeah.
All right.
lands, the whole works.
All right. We're coming to the final half hour here. Barry, we've left you enough time to cover open and closed session. Who's next? Yes. Let's launch into the open session report. Should be short and sweet.
So I continue to ask about the status of the reimbursement for the Friends Conservation Easement purchase from the United States government. And I've now included Mr. Weber and Mr. Hathaway in those discussions, and indicated to Brian Thomas that we're looking at some potential purchases here in the very near future. No, but when we're going to get that money back. We closed that in early June, so we're now 7 months since that.
Federal government does get special dispensation and doing things good.
Well, yeah, in the past they've, we requested the funds at closing, so we wouldn't have to go through this reimbursement process. And they've been great about doing that. We didn't have the opportunity to do that in this case because of other circumstances. Brian was of absence being coming to that. They also do reimburse you if you close before their funds arrive, but it's when they've approved funds. And so that process, theoretically, I've never really done this, should go much more smoothly. The catch here is that we didn't have their approval by the time we closed because we had closed. And so there's another convoluted process to go through in order to get their approval after the fact. So I think that's what's held things up. But we'll keep hacking away at that. And sometime soon, our $658,000 will show up.
And you haven't had any indication that there's a problem, just that it's
No.
slowly
No.
happening. Okay.
Right. The Lake Erie RCPP, which is the new RCPP funds that are available for Scio and our partners, has been a painfully slow process. Theoretically, those funds were available for all of our use on October 1 of 2021. So almost 18 months ago. But it sounds like the City of Ann Arbor, which is the lead agency for this, is to the final stages of getting everything lined up. Such that the funds then will be available to us, but they're still not available. Hopefully next month. I sent you all the quarterly report that I submit to that gets submitted to the Board of Trustees. It's pretty short this time. We've got a lot of stuff that's in open state. And for future reference, John, as the trustees rep on the LPC, I'm going to forward that document to you and send out to the clerk and supervisor to be included in the board packet.
Yeah, make sure you let me know what I can and can't send out.
Everything I'm going to send you is what can be sent and put into the board packets on the everything.
So this last one, John, which would have been yours to send, but since you were not in place, I sent it to Will. So
No, that's okay. I'm not offended.
And then finally, in terms of other matters here, I heard from Doug Lewan, our planner, that the natural river ordinance regulations have been updated in recent times. Turns out there was a legislature passed an amendment to the State Natural Rivers Act that allowed for local units of government who are implementing the natural river regulations within their jurisdictions to adopt a number of things into their local regulations. So in places where it's more rural, most of the natural rivers are north. Much more rural areas, the Department of Natural Resources is the managing agency for that. In a couple of places, the Huron River being one of them, where there's a state natural river designation, local people projects, township in this case, regulations that have been passed by the legislature and adopted by the DNR into this local ordinances. So I did that long ago, and now now that the act has been amended, Scio adopting some of those additional regulations, but not all of them. So it does. Most importantly for our purpose was a new allowance for structures within the natural river zone. Previously, there were none that were permitted within a certain distance from the edge of the water, the top of the water, and so forth. And one of them is that one private river access stairway per parcel
Oh
may be
my
allowed,
gosh.
subject to certain standards
Parcel.
per parcel. And Scio can choose to adopt.
So these have been adopted? This is
That's correct. It is on the township website.
It's almost like they knew that when they put that stairway in.
They did not know that.
They just really lucked out.
They apparently initiated that activity before these
Wow.
regulations were adopted. And subsequently, they actually did get approval for that, actually starting construction.
As I read the act, it does provide for approval of variances by permission of the code of body. So in that case, it isn't necessarily a violation if you want to do something, but you have to get permission to do it.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Now on that, and then just the only one property that we have under current contract is the Bellhead Woods Estates property. And as usual, we're still waiting for them to remove that last mortgage from the title in order to proceed. It's through their court.
And we are going to proceed with that.
We haven't pulled the plug yet. I wouldn't. The last I heard from y'all was that you wanted to continue pursuing.
Okay, is that it then? Sorry,
Sorry,
sorry.
the open session is, I can do that. So I'd like the audience members know that we're not going to go into closed session.
Okay, we need a motion
Motion.
and a second and a roll call.
And a motion and a purple flag.
Correct.
Yes, okay? We have a motion. So we have to move, they were going into closed session.
These
Oh, yeah, it's gotta be all.
I move that we go into closed session to discuss pending project evaluation.
Thanks, Marty.
Second.
Will. Okay,